Welcome to the LVB Kitchen. I'm your host, Tony Santo. In this episode, I'm going to show you how to make a nice, smooth, high-protein broth. You're going to want to stick around for this one. The problem with adding a protein powder to a hot broth is the fact that you'll cause the denaturing of the protein structure, which basically just means that the protein fell apart and you'll end up with a really clumpy mixture. So that would be inappropriate for someone who's on a full liquid diet. To demonstrate denaturing of protein, I've got these Lego blocks here. Protein has a highly organized three-dimensional structure, kind of like what I've created here. So this would be a whole protein. But if I add heat to a protein, what ends up happening is I end up with fragments, kind of like if I took this thing apart. Whoa, flying Legos. And so you end up with clumps, essentially, which is exactly what will happen if you add a protein powder to a hot liquid. So I'm going to show you the trick to getting a nice, smooth, high-protein broth. So to get started, what I'm going to do is take 2 ounces of water, and then I've got my protein powder here. There's a 1/4 cup of protein powder that has about 70 calories and 15 grams of protein. And quite frankly, I would take one of these little mixing containers like this. If you try to whisk this together, what ends up happening is the powder ends up clumping up in the whisk, and it makes it a little bit more difficult. So the easiest thing to do is just grab something like this or put it in a blender and take your water, place it in your mixing container, take your protein powder, dump it right in there, and then put your lid on nice and snug and basically do the protein shake. Right? All right, let's see what we have here. After about a minute of vigorous shaking, I've got a nice, smooth protein water mixture. I'm going to set that aside for now. I have a vegetable broth here that has about 20 calories and 2 grams of protein, but you can choose any kind of broth. There's bone broth, there's beef broth, and there's chicken broth. So I would encourage you to explore your culinary palate a little bit more. So the next thing that we have to do is take this broth and heat it up on the stove. So I'm going to go ahead and take my pot here and place my broth into that pot and heat it up. So I'm going to use medium heat, and I'm only heating it up to the point where it's hot and not boiling. Okay, so now that I have my broth heated up, what I need to do is very slowly add my protein water mixture to this particular broth. So I'm just going to add little bits at a time, and go ahead, I can use my whisk to work this protein water mixture in to avoid that clumping that we would get if we just put the entire protein water mixture into the pot. Now we can finish that off. All right, that is nice and smooth and ready to be placed in a bowl or a mug. There you have it, a high-protein broth without the clumps. When it comes to protein supplements, there are a lot of flavors to choose from. So which one should you choose? Well, it really comes down to taste preference. However, one thing that you should be advised of is that after bariatric surgery, sometimes taste buds do change, and so that vanilla flavor that you loved so much before the surgery suddenly now kind of tastes repulsive. So one of the things that you can do to combat purchasing all this protein powder ahead of time and then being stuck with it after the surgery is to basically choose milder flavors like unflavored or vanilla, because you can easily mask the flavor of those protein powders with things like broths or sugar-free Kool-Aid or Crystal Light. These are all great additives that you can use to change the flavor of your high protein powders. Although this particular high protein broth that I've shown you in this video is for a full liquid diet after bariatric surgery, There's no reason why, as you advance through your diet stages, that you start to add texture appropriate items to your particular high protein broth. So for example, maybe once you get to the soft foods diet, you start to pair that vegetable broth with some silken tofu placed in that high protein broth. So just keep that in mind, that you can start to expand the textures of the high protein broth as you advance through the textures in your bariatric diet stages after having bariatric surgery. One thing to keep in mind is that the portion sizes you've seen in this video are appropriate for a bariatric patient. At Las Vegas Bariatrics, we recommend a maximum per meal size of 4 ounces, that's a half a cup, or the size of a standard light bulb. The portion sizes that you've seen in this video will give you approximately 90 calories, 17 grams of protein, and 2 grams of fiber. If you have any questions about bariatric surgery, the procedures we offer, supplements, or nutrition questions, please feel free to call the number that you see on the screen. You can also find us on a variety of social media platforms. Just search for the keywords Las Vegas Bariatrics. Thanks for watching.
If your health is important, we have the answer. Las Vegas Bariatrics.